right. I will call to order a regular meeting of the Wellington Board of Selectmen. Today is December 7th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. The next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. We have not met since November 2nd. So you should each have a copy of those minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of November 2nd as submitted.
Motion by John Blessington. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Liza Boritz. Any discussion? I have asked, Heather is on camera and has recorder with us. So I'm going to ask her to do a roll vote for all of our votes tonight so that those following along, it can be clear and concise. All right, Heather.
Blessington,
Aye.
Barrett, and Wysinski.
Aye. That was an aye from Liza, although she
I
was.
saw her lips moving.
Sorry.
Okay, the next item is present to speak. If you would like to speak, and it looks like everyone here is on camera, you can use the participants tab to raise your hand, and then we will take from that order. Ask you to state your name for the record and limit yourself to 2 minutes. Is there anyone present to speak? All right, yes, Jim Bulick.
I like to, you have new business of
If you could
appointments.
just
I like to,
identify yourself
Oh.
for the record.
sorry about that. Jim Bulick, Laurel Drive. I like to at least comment on the appointments. Many of the people I've seen, and I'm very glad are again offering to volunteer their services, and I commend them for that. I particularly want to endorse Matt Clark for the Economic Development Commission. I believe you guys should have seen a letter I sent a couple of weeks back, and also Mr. Peter Latinchik for the CIP committee, who has extensive experience in that area, serving in that committee and on the Board of Finance. Regarding one of the old businesses, the school building committee, this is a very important item to be brought before our town. It requires, I think, participation by as many town stakeholders as possible. I'm disappointed that they're trying to get this going again at a time where we have only Zoom meetings available to us. I mean, Zoom meetings are okay. In-person meetings are better, particularly if you're going to have architects and people showing plans and things like that. I would much hope that we delay meeting here until we can get full participation by all members of our town. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else present to speak? If you don't know how to use the participants tab to raise your hand, you should be able to unmute yourself. We can see you unmuted if there's anyone else present to speak. Okay, there will be an opportunity at the end of the meeting if there is anyone who would like to speak on a topic before the board. So I'll move forward to correspondence. There is a list of correspondence in your packet. One of the items I'll draw to your attention is the first item. Talon County Mutual Aid Fire Service, often referred to as TN, has been monitoring burglar and fire alarms for the town, the schools, and our fire department. As of the end of August, when contracts expire for all of their accounts, excuse me, they will no longer be offering this service. So that means we have to go out to find a new vendor. As we begin to look, a couple of our contracts expire, one at the end of this month and one in April. The rest of those contracts expire June 30. So I did reach out to TN to see if they would, for a prorated fee, continue to monitor all of our accounts until the end of June 30. So then we can start with a new company as a whole. And they did agree to that on Friday. So hope to get something in writing from them. They'll send us a prorated bill. So that is a very important piece of information that came to us, and just want you to be aware. So we'll be looking at a new vendor for that. Any questions regarding correspondence? All right. Brings me to first Selectman status update. I'm going to talk about a couple of things. The first is I'll start with, because we haven't said it in a while, we had an election here in Willington, and you heard me for a couple of months remind you where and the changes. I want to say this was a historic event, to say the least. It was like no other. We had an 85.96% voter turnout in Willington. So we had 3,174 registered voters out of our 3,695 registered voters vote in this last election, either in person or by absentee ballot. So for reference, we, of those 3,174, 1,030 of those were via absentee ballot. So our town clerks had anticipated needing about 3,000. The guidance was to go on the high side. We really had no idea what to expect. We had 1,130 voters request a ballot, and 100 of those did not return their ballot. So I think for some folks, I can tell you in my household, my plan was to vote in person, but if I was not able, I did have an absentee ballot, didn't have to use it. So it met with it went into the unused portion, so it was just never returned. So I only had 100 of those. So the rest of our voters were in person. So I really want to thank everyone who had a part in making this election a safe and fair election in Willington. Specifically, and it's possible I leave someone out, and I don't mean to. So anyone who had anything to do with, thank you. The register of voters, their deputies, every poll worker, whether they were at Hall School or here in the town office building, counting absentee ballots here, the town clerk's office, the public works crew, the Hall School custodial staff, and last, our residents, who really, without their cooperation with some new rules, some new changes, could not have made this happen. The work that went into this was tremendous, to say the least. And all of those people were integral in, whether it was moving everything from this building to that building and back again. And thank you to Superintendent Stevens for helping assist in making his building available so that we could adequately social distance. So again, thank you for doing your part to ensure everyone was given a chance to vote in these unprecedented times. Sadly, we on November 20th received a resignation from our Parks and Rec Director, Maureen Parcell. She will be leaving us on December 18th. The job was posted externally, first internally, it is a union position, and then externally, and it will close on December 16th. So we'll be looking for new. She does have some activities through the holidays, and so we're working on an easy transition there, and her board will be working closely with them as we move towards a new director, and we wish her luck. I can't say enough good things about the work Maureen did while she was here in Willington, and no doubt the next 2 weeks we'll get more of the same. So good luck to her in her next endeavor. The Emergency Communications Task Force will meet again this Wednesday, the 9th at 6:30. Our last meeting, we saw a demonstration from Everbridge. So Everbridge, or the CT alert, is what you see used for the reverse 911 at the state. There is a component of that you can purchase so that you can have your own source of communication and then utilize the state portion if there were a real emergency situation outside of what you would use for in-house communication. So we took a look at that. When we meet again this week, we'll be now weighing the two to see if there's something else we want to see or what direction we want to move. And we should be ready after that meeting to push out a survey to all residents on emergency communications. On November 9th, we were awarded a STEEP grant in the amount of $128,205 for renovations to the Old Town Hall. So that includes a septic system, the windows, reglazing of the historic windows that are on the inside, and painting of the interior. So we're working with Deep to get a contract signed and the process begun. And that will also remove these two items from CIP. So take two things off of their now funded from a STEEP grant. So we're excited about that. And that leads me to the Board of Finance met in November, and they had a request from the Conservation Commission to spend some funds. And they pushed those two things to the Board of Selectmen to call a town meeting. You don't see them on the agenda tonight because we were hoping to have the information for the STEEP grant so that if we need to package these together, we can have one town meeting. And also hoping that when we do that next, we'll be able to try a hybrid town meeting, fingers crossed. Otherwise, we'd have to go to another outdoor event. And so it's a little chilly out there about the rest of you. So hopefully we can get the information, the contracts from Deep soon and move forward with that process and hopefully have a town meeting just after the beginning of the year. At this point, I think it would be very tough to get one in and around the holidays. Any questions or comments? All right, I'll move forward to Public Works, and I see Troy here on the call.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
We can.
All right, so we've been grading some dirt roads. We've been chipping some brush. We've got pretty much all the vehicles serviced. Catch basins are pretty much clean. They had about one more day and all of them will have been backed out. The roadside mowing is still going on. We cleaned the trucks today from the storm. And mostly for like the last month or so, we've been building these buildings over at the school for the kids for the masks. We've done the trash at the park. And we got ready for the snow and rainstorm that we had over the weekend. That's about it.
All right. I will mention when Tori talks about, one of our crew members has been servicing vehicles. We don't have a full-time mechanic. There are many things that Jeff Hansen can do, and there are many things we have to send out for. Just prior to the storm, one of our regular plow trucks had some issues and we had to send it out because we didn't have the capabilities to fix it in-house. So I know last year, well, Liza and I may recall, John wasn't here with us, that Troy had asked for additional funding in his budget for a mechanic. And this is one of the things that may have made a difference. The truck didn't come back in time for the storm, so we had to use the older truck that, if you recall, we went to town meeting to get funds for to replace last year because it's barely hanging on, and it barely hung on through the storm. And I say that because there were many times where it had to, he had to pull over and stop and wait for the truck to cool down and be able to start up again. So this was a minor storm and it was pretty challenging. So hopefully we will get the other truck back and not have any more issues this season. All right, thank you, Troy. As we move on to new business, the first item is a tax refund. I will make a motion to refund Peter and Margot Nielsen a certificate of correction in the amount of $61.06.
I'll
Is there a
second. I will
Seconded
second.
by John Blessington.
John.
Any discussion? All right, Heather, I'll ask you to call for a vote. Or poll for a vote. I'll call for a vote.
Blessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Wasinski.
Aye. All right, motion carries. Thank you. Next item, One of the projects from CIP was replacing the boiler here in the town, one of the boilers here in the town office building, and that does the main part of the building upstairs. So Troy has gotten us 3 quotes. You will see one from Williams Oil in the amount of $16,500. One from Energy Unlimited for $9,800, and one from MCOR Services in the amount of $14,380. Troy, anything specific we should know about these? Reading them over, I don't. Williams says that the Beckett burner is optional. Is that something that's included in the other
Yes, yeah,
quotes?
yeah. The other two actually were a Wall McLean furnace, and Energy Unlimited was a Peerless furnace. They're both good furnaces. Energy Unlimited actually did a little bit more by replacing some stuff versus the other two. So they came in a lot cheaper. I don't understand why, but they did the oil tank replacement at the old town hall, and they were wonderful people to work with. They did a very clean, neat job. So I would recommend them.
Right, so Troy communicated to my office today with, I would recommend we use Energy Unlimited to replace the boiler. They replaced the oil tank at the old town hall and did a wonderful clean job. So I will make a motion to award the TOB boiler replacement to Energy Unlimited in the amount of $9,800.
Second.
Based on the recommendation of Troy, our Public Works Director. Sorry,
I'll second.
seconded by Liza. Any discussion? If no further discussion, I will call for a vote. What's your key?
Sorry about that. I was having a
Okay.
hard time. Blessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Wysinski.
Aye. All right, motion carries. Heather's getting practice in saying my unusual name. She'll be good at it by the end. All right, appointments. Okay, hold on, folks, because we have several appointments, which is wonderful because it's an opportunity for more folks to get in on the action on our boards and commissions. Apologize as I look for my sheet. Okay, so the first up is Conservation Commission. We have 3 appointments here. John and Liza, you both should have a sheet with a list of appointments, correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
All right, if one of you wants to start, I apologize while I look for that particular.
Okay. I will move to reappoint Robert Shabbat on the Conservation Commission effective December 2nd, 2020, expiring December 1st, 2023.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Oh, no, Heather, sorry. Had it.
Blessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Wysinski.
Aye.
Getting better.
And you should say it just a little bit differently every single
Every time.
That would make this meeting very enjoyable for me.
I'll do my
Okay.
best.
I've heard multiple ways, so you can get real creative with it.
Move to reappoint Marilyn Schreiber to the Conservation Commission effective December 2nd, 2020, expiring December 1st, 2023.
Second.
Any discussion?
Blessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Wysinski.
Aye. Motion carries. Look, I found it. All right, I will move to, and you can chime in at any time, just because I found the paper. I'll move to reappoint Kathleen Demers to the Conservation Commission effective December 2nd, 2020, expiring December 1st, 2023.
Second.
I'll second that one. I second.
Lessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Wyszynski.
Aye. All right. We have a reappointment for PZC alternate here. I'll move to reappoint Lori Semperbaum as an alternate member of the Willington Planning and Zoning Commission effective December 4th, 2020, expiring December 3rd, 2023.
Second.
Seconded by Liza. Any discussion?
Lessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Wyszynski.
Aye. All right. Zoning Board of Appeals. I will move to reappoint Mark Masinda as a regular member of the Willington Zoning Board of Appeals effective January 1st, 2021, expiring December 31st, 2024. Is there a second? Seconded by John Blessington. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Blessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Wyszynski.
Aye. All right, motion carries. CIP, we had three appointments expire, and we have four candidates for three of the seats. One of them would be a reappoint. So we have had Orlando Rodriguez, Carrie Donaldson, and Peter Latensik express interest in sitting on the Capital Improvement Plan Committee, as well as Stephanie Summers, who would like to remain and be reappointed. So the three seats expired on November 30th. So first, I'll take the opportunity to thank Peter Tanaka and Rick Maloney for their years on CIP. We appreciate them, but they've decided to move on maybe to other boards or endeavors. So I will start. I'm going to make a motion to appoint Stephanie Summers as a regular member of the Willington Capital Improvement Program Committee, effective December 8th, 2020, expiring December 1st, 2023.
Second. Is she a reappoint? She's a reappointment though, right?
She would be a reappointment.
Okay.
So do we still have three open spaces now?
There are three total seats. This would be one of those three
Okay.
if we reappoint her.
Okay.
We don't. We could vote not to reappoint, and then there would be three seats.
Well, I understand that we had three. We showed three blanks on the.
Correct.
So I.
Right, and my motion is to reappoint Stephanie Summers as one of those.
Well, I understand that. But
Okay, I can amend my. Was there a second to my motion?
I seconded, yeah.
Okay, I would be willing to amend it to appoint Stephanie Summers as a regular member of the Willington Capital Improvement Program Committee to fill a vacancy effective December 8th, 2020, expiring December 1st, 2023. If that wording makes it any different to you, John.
okay.
Okay.
Although I would like to make the next appointment if I can.
Sure. Is there any discussion? Right, seeing no discussion, I'll call for a vote.
Lessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Wyszynski.
Aye.
Okay, then I would move to appoint Peter Latensik as a regular member of the Wellington Capital Improvement Program Committee to fill a vacancy effective December 8th, 2020, expiring December 1st, 2023.
Second.
Seconded by Liza. Any discussion?
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time tracking all of the interest letters.
Sure.
So if you can give me just a quick second, because I think some of the stuff is a little bit, oh, there we go. So if I could have just one quick minute to read. Okay, so we have, for any of those who are new to the committee, are any of them here?
It looks like
It looks like we have Peter here.
currently Mr. Latinsik is here. The others, I don't believe we're able to attend. Did you hear back from them, Heather?
Okay, I would be interested in hearing from, those who have not served on this committee before, who are interested in being on the committee, what the interest is. Hear a little bit about it.
Mr. Latinsik, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Peter Latinsik, 97 Trask Road. Good evening. I had served previously on Capital Improvement Committee for about 2 decades in the 1990s and 2000s, right up until about time the Miles administration took over, at which time I came off. So I have a fair amount of experience on that committee. In my job at formerly United Technologies, now Otis Elevator Company, I have extensive experience in capital project management, and I have a keen interest in town affairs, as many of you know, and served on various boards over the years: Board of Finance, Board of Education, Planning and Zoning, and CIP. So I think I could make a contribution to CIP. I do have a concern that CIP has strayed from its original purpose over the years, and would like to see some sense of discipline restored to the process. And I think I could bring that kind of merit to the board, or committee, I should say. Thank you.
Can you please expand on that?
I don't believe that the CIP committee is following the process that was established when we formed the CIP committee, because I was there then when that occurred. And the way the process functioned in those early years, the projects or requests were ranked and vetted out, and there was a threshold, if you will, for projects that would be accepted and projects that were not. It seems in more recent years, every project becomes a CIP project. And I think it would be useful for the town to be able to evaluate projects and only approve projects that make sense for our community.
Thank you. Just to comment on Mr. Latinsik's comments, having sat on CIP in my position here as first selectwoman for the last 3 cycles, every project that comes before CIP has not been approved, and that hasn't been the case during at least the Milos administration as well. We've had fewer requests in the last several years, and I think we were able to accommodate some, but not every request makes it onto the 5-year plan.
Did I understand that Mr. Latinsik did not say that every project had been approved, but that he said that some projects that go on there, he does not feel belong on there? That's part of the decision to be made by
Correct.
members of the board.
Right. I heard him say he believed that every project that was applied for was on the plan. So my rebuttal to that. Any other discussion? Right.
Lexington,
Seeing no discussion, we'll call for a vote. I'm sorry to hear you, Heather. Go ahead.
Lexington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Nay.
and Wyszynski.
Nay.
I would like to put it on record here that I think this is pretty nasty trick. Now, if you could see if the members of the public could see the appointments, they come as they usually do. They say we move to reappoint, and I'm reading directly off of here. Move to reappoint Kathleen Demers to the Conservation Commission. Okay. Move to reappoint Lori Semperbaum. Then we come down to the Capital Improvement Committee. And it says here, move to appoint space, move to appoint space, move to appoint space. You didn't put any names on there, even though who was it? The individual that we just,
Stephanie.
Steph Summers.
Stephanie had suggested that she wanted to be reappointed. Now, it's almost a given that anyone who asks to be reappointed to a position gets that reappointment. And so her name should have been on there. And if her name were on there, I would know that we had two blank spaces to fill, and that we had 3 people who had expressed an interest.
Okay, so I'll speak to that. The accusation that there was a dirty trick is ridiculous. We have 4 candidates who put their name forward and 3 openings. So I did not ask Heather to put the name of the individual in, as there were more individuals asking to be on a committee than there were spots. If I were to fill them in, I think that would have been inappropriate. Certainly, I don't know who they would be. There was 1 reappointment for 1 seat. Had someone else come forward. Oh, and it's not a given that we would all vote yes for any of the above. The suggested motions were written with the name. 1 seat, 1 name. We filled it in simply to make the motion easier for you to read. There were 4 names that came before this board for 3 seats. One of them happened to be a reappointment, but I did not want to assume that reappointment would take precedence over someone else. Everyone here is given their own individual vote. I will make a motion to appoint Carrie Donaldson as a regular member of the Willington Capital Improvement Program Committee to fill a vacancy effective December 8th, 2020, expiring December 1st, 2023. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Liza. Is there any discussion?
Yes, could I ask Ms. Donaldson some questions?
Ms. Donaldson does not appear to be on the meeting. If you are, unmute yourself. I don't see her name listed, and unless she was under a name I'm unfamiliar with, I don't see Ms. Donaldson here present this evening.
Well,
Is there any other discussion?
such discussion would be never mind.
Seeing no other discussion, I'll call for a vote.
Lessington,
Nay.
Borit,
Aye.
Krasinski.
Aye. Motion carries. So we have 1 more seat to fill. I will move to appoint Orlando Rodriguez as a regular member of the Willington Capital Improvement Program Committee to fill a vacancy effective December 8th, 2020, expiring December 1st, 2023.
Second.
Seconded by Liza. Is there any discussion?
Is Mr. Rodriguez present so that I can ask him some questions?
He is not.
I do not believe so. Heather, did he respond?
No.
All right, seeing no further discussion, I will call for a vote.
Lessington,
Nay.
Borit,
Aye.
Krasinski.
Aye. Motion carries.
I would move.
Who are
to-
not on the board, can I ask you to mute your microphone, please? Thank you. All right, the
Move to
next,
appoint Matthew Clark as the regular member of the Willington Economic Development Commission to fill a vacancy effective December 8th, 2020, expiring January 1st, 2025.
Second,
any discussion? I don't see Mr. Clark here, which again is not a requirement. Certainly, the offer was made to all appointments to attend our meeting, but not required to do so. Seeing no further discussion, I'll call for a vote.
Blessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
aye.
Krasinski.
Aye. The next item on our agenda is approving Board of Selectmen budget workshop. You should see in your packet dates that are either prior to a Board of Selectmen meeting or the Mondays we do not have a Selectmen's meeting. And if we did not need those meetings at the end, we certainly could cancel. So this will be January 4th at 5:30, January 11th at 6:30. That is a Tuesday. Did I write Tuesday? No, that's a Monday. January 19th at 5:30. That is a Tuesday because Monday's a holiday. January 25th at 6:30, February 1st at 5:30, and February 8th at 6:30. If they're at 5:30, they proceed regular Board of Selectmen meeting, and the others are normal meeting time. That sounds doable. I will make a motion to adopt the budget workshop schedule as presented.
I'll second.
Seconded by John. Any discussion? All right.
Blessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Krasinski.
Aye. All right, thank you. Okay, COVID-19. I always start this update with the number of cumulative cases in Willington specifically. So as of 4 o'clock this afternoon, Willington has 83 cumulative positive COVID-19 cases with 4 probable cases. It's been asked in previous meetings, how many of those are active? Well, I don't know that these folks are all still currently ill. Since our last meeting on November 2nd, we have had 51 positive cases. At our last meeting, we had 32 cases. So it's safe to say that we have 51 either just most recently recovering or still currently experiencing symptoms of COVID-19. Sadly, last month, Willington had its first COVID-19 related death, and a second one was reported today. I do not know who the individuals are, as this is HIPAA protected medical information. We just are informed for reporting purposes, but certainly our thoughts and prayers are extended to the families of those individuals. So we're certainly seeing an increase, as the state is, as the entire country is, in COVID-19 cases. There are multiple opportunities for folks to get tested. I did send out a message when we were declared red level alert area, which meant we had met the threshold of cases in 2 weeks. All but about under 10, a handful of towns in Connecticut currently are in that red level alert. So this guidance is still, if you can get tested, not necessarily if you're experiencing symptoms, and then quarantine if you have been exposed and or direct close contact, to quarantine for 14 days or up to 10 days if you are positive and have no symptoms left. So we hope folks are taking that seriously, and quarantining would be, isolating at home in your house, away from even the individuals in your home. So there are many testing opportunities. We talked about this last time. I had inquired once again, once we became a red level town, as to testing stood up here in Willington and what we could do. There just aren't resources available for testing in every town. And so they're really encouraging testing in a regional area. I can tell you that there are many. Johnson Hospital has either by appointment or drive up. And so you can go there. That is on a first come, first serve. You stay in your car and have the test done there. There are opportunities in Willimantic at Generations. CVS does testing by appointment. So if our residents, once again, go to the ct.gov/coronavirus, there is a link to find testing near you, and we'll continue to push out information on testing sites in our region that are stood up. There had been some in Mansfield, Tolland, and Vernon. So encourage our residents to go there. But unless something seriously changes, I don't see us getting a testing site here in Willington. But I won't say never, you just never know. The vaccine, as hopefully most of you have heard, the vaccine is anticipated to get approval through the FDA. If that happens, there's a potential that it will be available in Connecticut as early as next Monday. And the governors outlined the distribution process last week, both to the public and then to municipal leaders. So the first, they'll be in 3 waves, the testing. Healthcare workers, long-term care facility residents, and medical first responders will be in that first wave. So I would anticipate some of our EMS workers would be in that first wave. I will say, and the governor said this again today, he has no plans to make the vaccine mandatory. That's not to say that someone's individual employer couldn't require it as a condition of employment, but from the state perspective, he does not anticipate mandating this vaccine. So the time frame given for that was as soon as the vaccine was received. So potentially beginning as early in Connecticut as next week. January through May, the second set of individuals would include critical workforce, other congregate settings, adults over 65, and high-risk individuals under 65. So it's possible that some of our workforce could fall into the critical workforce. We don't have clarification on who falls into those categories. And then the last group is those under 18. But I would say the caveat would be over 12. I don't believe the vaccines that are out there currently are for students under children under 12. And then remaining people over 18. So anyone over 18 that didn't fall into those categories would be in that last wave. And that would be June through December. So it could take some time to get everyone vaccinated. I don't have the details as it was released just before this meeting, but the governor signed an executive order today specifically around the vaccine and availability and administration. So we'll share that with folks. Hopefully there will be low to no cost for this vaccine, and that we can ensure that anyone who wants to get one can get one. Liza, did you have a comment or a question?
I did have a question. Sorry, Phil, but you're here, so I'm going to ask it. I know like when H1N1 flu was a thing, I think my kids were in daycare, so not in the public school system yet, but there was a requirement at that point that those who were able to get the H1N1 vaccine needed to in order to report to school. Or to daycare anyway. I'm wondering if there's anything similar with this. I know that the sort of the function of this particular illness is a little bit different in that it's not necessarily targeting the very young as it is the older or compromised. So I'm just wondering if there is any conversation or thought about whether or not those who are eligible, I think what Eric, you said above the age of 12, if there will be any requirement or conversations about requirements for anybody within that age group to get the vaccine when it's available to them.
So we've asked that question from Department of Public Health at our superintendent meetings. We do not have an answer yet. It sounds like they're not going to mandate it at this point in time, and I think it's really because they still do not have all the information that they're looking for. But time will tell as we get closer to some sort of distribution and plan. We'll act then, but at this point we do not believe it's going to be mandated like other things have been mandated in the past.
And Phil, correct me if I'm wrong, on our municipal call this week, the question was asked specifically about teachers. And it seemed like a hard no that they were not in the critical workforce currently. Is that correct?
Correct.
So that could change. I think everything with COVID these days is subject to change, as we know. But it was indicated to us very clearly that teachers would not be considered the critical workforce, which we may or may not agree with. But I do know they have a group of highly skilled individuals on the vaccine team specifically for the state of Connecticut. So,
Yeah, Erica, can I just also say that we are really seeing that our mitigation factors that we're utilizing and implementing in our schools. And I was talking to the superintendent from a different district today who has over 100 cases in their schools between students and staff, and they're not seeing transmission it happening in school. They're seeing it in the community. They're seeing it in small gatherings, which is really good. And the mitigation factors, of mask wearing, of social distancing, of cohorting, the things that we're doing appear to be working. Now I'm going to knock on wood here and hope that continues. But it's that is might be one of the reasons why they're not going to push that right away.
let's hope so. All right, the town office building is still open by appointment only for business that needs to be done in person. It can't be done over the phone or online. And reminder that masks are required at all times to visitors here at the TOB and at the transfer station. So, and then the travel ban is still in effect. It currently encompasses 48 states and/or territories. We are encouraging residents to be mindful of non-essential travel and to be aware of the executive order for mandatory self-quarantine. And that again is available on the ct.gov/coronavirus. Any questions COVID related? All right. I would love to be able to give you lower numbers next time, but I certainly hope that our residents stay well and healthy as we head into the holiday season. And once again, I just our condolences to the families of those who lost their loved ones. All right, that brings us to item B of old business, the school building committee members, so discussion and appointment. So it's been quite a while since we talked about the school building committee. And to recap, the Board of Ed brought the discussion to the Board of Selectmen to consider forming a school building committee after they exhausted their the work that they could do as a board, bringing a potential project or determining what a project could be forward. On January 30th of 2020, a town meeting was held. The vote was taken to establish a school building committee, and that was passed in favor. Due to the absence of Selectman Blessington last February, we Selectman Boritz and I opted to hold off on the conversation of appointing members to that committee. And by the time we were all back at the table, COVID hit. And so our in-person meetings halted. Once we began meetings by Zoom, we certainly had a challenge with some things and many other items ahead of us. But it's been 10 months since that town meeting was held, and we have an obligation to the electors that voted in town meeting to move the process forward. So what I'd like to do is go over the candidates who had, from our request back in February, after that January 30th meeting, to serve on this committee. We take a look at those, appoint the committee, and then the committee can begin work. Whether they determine that they want to wait until we move forward, the process needs to be to form the committee, and then the committee can do that work It's not the work of the Board of Selectmen at that point. Yes, John.
I would suggest that, first of all, if I understand it correctly, that meeting was back in February or January, February, was to form an exploratory committee. And I know the original charge did not read that way, but this was said at the meeting, from what I understand, that this was going to be an exploratory committee, so that it would not, and the what we're having here tonight, given here tonight, is okay. Here's how we're going to build this school. There's nothing in there about making a decision as to whether or not we're going to build it.
Okay, so the item that was voted on that I'm specifically talking about now, which is appointing members to the committee, was to see if the townspeople, based on the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen, will establish a school building committee for a building project of a pre-K through 8 school. That was the question asked. And we had voted as a board to for it to be an 11-member committee that would include 1 member of the Board of Education, 1 member of the Board of Finance, 1 member of the Board of Education staff, 1 member with construction industry experience, and that is by state statute. So, a member has to fill that role specifically. The first selectman or his or her designee, and 5 members from the community at large, as well as the superintendent as a member ex officio.
I would also suggest that this is a bad time to do it because Connecticut is in a depression, period. And a year ago, well, everything was running fine. The economy was raising. Now we are in a depression, and this building a school right now would create a hardship for a lot of Wellington residents. The members of this, or the proposed members of this committee here, almost all of them are in the education business, and they are not facing the same hardships that the person who works in a restaurant or digs ditches or has a small business. They're not in the same position. So
Can I just, John, I want to stop you there for a minute. I apologize for interrupting you, but the question of whether or not to form the committee is not on the table anymore. We have had that conversation. We had it for months. It went to a town meeting. It's been voted and it's been approved. So we are doing this because this is what the voters in Willington, Connecticut have decided to do. It is no longer up to us to have this conversation of whether or not to have this committee. Okay, so I think we can talk a little bit about the charge when we get to that point. But I believe that any further delay of not filling the vacancies within this position is directly going against the will of the voters in our town. Clearly, this passed. Like it or not, it passed. The circumstances are what they are. The conversation can still happen and can still move forward. And we have an obligation as the Board of Selectmen, who put this question out to the town, and the voters spoke, to then see it through at a point that now it's reasonable that we have these mechanisms in place for meetings. We are certainly now well seasoned in meeting virtually. And there is no hardship to moving forward with having the conversation at this point.
Well, what this committee may bring back to the town is there's not a project that we find is appropriate, or we find a project appropriate, and guess what? It has to go back to the voters in this town. A committee is not determining whether or not the town spends money on any one project. So we, again, I said, we brought this back to the table because we have an obligation to the voters to form the committee that they vote. We brought the question to them and they voted on.
Liza, to answer you, way back about that time also, I think it was in early March, the townspeople voted to have the roofs repaired on the two current schools. And this yet has not been done because nobody had the time to do it. So yet we still have the time here to do this. And when I tried to bring up the roofs to the Board of Selectmen meetings, well, none of our business. We have nothing to do with that.
And
That's
that's a gross mischaracterization of the conversation that we'd had a month ago, John. Not even close to the conversation that we'd had a month ago. So I don't even want to entertain further conversation on that point. That's a ludicrous assumption that that's what we had said.
All right, so
Like-
moving,
But
I'm going to move this discussion forward as we look to members, 11 members. So I'm going to take a stab at starting to fill some of those that are obvious. And there's one individual to fit that role. So I will move to appoint Phil Stevens, superintendent, as a member ex officio of the school building committee, effective immediately, expiring once the charge of the committee has been completed.
Second.
Seconded by Liza. Any discussion? Again, we said this committee would have the superintendent as a member ex officio, and currently Phil Stevens is our superintendent. No one else to choose from. All right, seeing no other discussion, I'll call for a vote.
Blessington,
I,
Boritz,
Aye.
Wusinski.
Aye.
And I'll make a motion to appoint Erica Wyszynski to the first, I don't have the exact wording, I apologize, but as the representative from the Selectmen's office to serve on the school building committee. Please remind me of the date.
Effective immediately.
Okay, effective immediately and
Expiring once
through
the charge of the committee has been completed.
expiring once the charge of the committee has been completed.
Is there a second? I'll second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Oh, no, Heather, sorry.
Blessington,
I,
Boritz,
Aye.
Wusinski.
Aye. All right, in your packet, you will see a communication from Mike McCoo. The Board of Finance had sent his name, voted and sent his name forth. So I will make a motion to appoint Mike McCoo as a regular member of the school building committee, effective immediately, expiring once the charge of the committee has been completed.
Second.
Seconded by Liza. Any discussion? Again, none of the other candidates we have fit the role of a Board of Finance member, and the Board of Finance did send us that name as well. All right.
Blessington,
I,
Boritz,
Aye.
Wusinski.
Aye. All right. I think we can go forward once more. We had Phil, correct me if I'm wrong, you asked of your staff back when this discussion started, and one name came forward. So I will move to appoint Nico Cemerzakis as a regular member of the school building committee, effective immediately, expiring once the charge of the committee has been completed.
Second.
Seconded by Liza. Any discussion?
yes, who is, which position is this filling?
This is the Board of Education staff,
Okay,
someone who works with in the school, not a
Yeah.
not Board of Education member.
there it is. Okay. Yeah,
Blessington,
I,
Boritz,
Aye.
Wusinski.
Aye. All right, motion carried. And I will make a motion to appoint Ann Groshon as a regular member of the board, school building committee, effective immediately, expiring once the charge of the committee has been completed.
Second,
Seconded by Liza. This would be a Board of Education member. Phil,
Uh,
not Phil Stevens, but Billy.
Wasn't Herb Erico on the original list? Why is he not on this list here?
This was not, when we put this out again in February, John. And I apologize, you may not have, I don't believe you were with us at the table when we asked, and everyone, and I don't recall if his name was back in October when we had the first discussion, but everyone who initially put their name in was given an opportunity to put their name in a second time in February. And what you have before you are those that said, yes, I would like to be considered.
This is getting to be a very stacked committee here, if you'll forgive me. We have teachers on here. I don't see that where there is not a conflict of interest when you have teachers, members of the Board of Ed,
these are specifically filling spots that we had identified to be filled in the committee.
right, and hopefully there might be some Republicans on there, but I'm surprised that Herb isn't on here.
You'd have to take that up with Mr. Erico. We put this out to the community in the same fashion, John. Whether or not someone chose to put their name in is up to them. That was not for us to decide. We put the communication out and we received the request that you see before us. All right, the motion on the floor is to appoint Ann Grosjean. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Oh, no, sorry.
Lexington,
Nay.
Moritz,
Aye.
Krasinski.
Aye. With the exception of the construction industry experience individual, the rest of these were taken from language of a school building committee formed in this town in 1990, and very similar to many other building committees in neighboring towns. So it's not, the makeup is not unusual. I can't decide, we don't get to decide who puts their name in for those spots, but the spots that we called for. All right, so that leaves us with now down to 6 names. 1 with construction experience and 5 members at large. So I would suggest we go through the others. I will tell you in your packet, excuse me, you have submissions from David Icorn and David Jordan. David Icorn has moved out of Willington and indicated to Heather today, well, we got it today, it came yesterday, that he's withdrawing his name. And David Jordan also has asked to have his name withdrawn from consideration at this time. Excuse me. So those are 2 names at large. So I'm going to make a motion so we can discuss. I will move to appoint Catherine Viveros to the as a regular member of the school building committee, effective immediately, expiring once the charge of the committee has been completed.
Second.
And my suggestion is that she fill the role of an individual who has construction experience. And I hope you had an opportunity to take a look at her submission. This is what she does. It's not to say that we're building a new school or renovating a school, right? Those are the items that have been discussed. It's that if we want to have someone who has the experience on a committee to get proper information to the voter, she certainly has that experience and could help us navigate this process as well.
Was the construction industry person, was that one of the, in addition to the 5 members at large?
Yes,
And you're appointing her as the construction?
correct. I am that is the role I believe she fills with construction industry. And that is by a new state statute, that we have to have someone that fills that role. Any other discussion? All right, I'll call for a vote.
Wessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Krasinski.
Aye. All right, so now we're down to 5 submissions. No, not 5 submissions, 5 spots remaining. Correct me if I'm wrong. Does that leave us with 6 we've already appointed, Heather?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so we have David Medeiros, and you should have all of their submissions in your packet. Hopefully an opportunity. I apologize, I'm taking them out. Nancy Bailey, Brianna Ross, Gary Anderson, Peter Latensik, sorry, it's a name like mine, I hope I say it right. Lori Semperbon, Justin Naderno. So as we look over those, we see, I see a variety of experiences. One of those individuals was on the committee to build the library. Certainly experience with that. That was Nancy Bailey. 30 years in the construction industry as a building business owner. And she spent 12 years on the library board of directors. During that tenure, included the building of the new library. So some potential there. David Medeiros is in his day job, not his volunteer opportunity, is a manager of facility operations and planning at United Technologies Research Center. So you can see that he's worked converting old buildings to new ones and building new ones. I think those are a couple of the suggestions that have come up: renovating to new and or building new. If one of those was chosen, but again, all of this will go to a town meeting from that committee. Brianna Belair is a Willington resident and a teacher in another district, and brings experience on what we would be looking for inside a building if and when we get to that point. Gary Anderson is the Director of Planning and Economic Development for the town of Manchester. You can see he has extensive work in planning, and he has a master's in urban environmental policy and planning. Peter Latensik spoke of his experience here, served on various committees. He was a member of the 1990 School Building Committee and the 1997 ADA School Building Committee, and has 30 years of construction and project management experience at United Technologies and Otis Elevator. Lori Semperbon is a retired teacher and brings a perspective of experience there. And Justin Naderno is current resident and an electrical, an E2, holds a valid E2 electrical license and currently works for Eversource Energy. He has general knowledge of building trades. So those are the names we have to consider. Ones we did earlier, I think were a little bit easier. We're now talking about members at large. I think we want to first, I think the committee and should be made up of people who are interested in bringing forth to the townspeople the potential for a project for them to vote on. And so it's important. The Board of Ed did all years of work on what they think should be done. There was a study, a facility study done that brought us cost estimates in 2017 for renovating our buildings, consolidating our buildings, and or building a new facility. And now what this project would need is to have concrete information if that's the direction the committee goes, and bring that back to the voters. Again, not every building committee with a charge such as we will be asking has brought forth a project. I will tell you, after extensive research, the bill, and Mr. Latinsitz could agree, the building committee in 1990 did not bring forth a new or a renovated building to the townspeople for a vote. So just because the building committee is formed and meets does not mean a project is going to happen. Every elector in town gets to determine that at a town meeting.
Well, we are discussing, again, I know we have not got to the charge yet, but I pretty much have a feeling of where that's going. We're discussing whether this is going to be a committee which will choose whether to build a new school or maybe renovate the old school. We have a few people here that have made it clear in their resume that they want a new school, period. So I would like to have somebody who might be a little more skeptical toward that on this committee. And since we did not get Mr. Latinsitz on the CIP, I would ask that he be put on this committee.
I'd be interested to see which of these you read that I read differently that said yes, I want a new school. I didn't read that in their request. John, I think we've said this over and over again. I think you've made that assumption, and I think you've made that perfectly clear.
And also, I don't understand. We keep having this conversation, and I don't understand how else to have it where we have a different result in the outcome. But the conversation has always been, there's been nearly a decade's worth of work in this phase, was 6 or 7 years worth of work, at least in this phase. The goal of the school building committee is to determine the feasibility and put together a proposal for if we build a new school building, to investigate options for land, to investigate options for possible grants, and to come up with, and if we do this, this is the plan and this is what it would look like. That's the goal of the school building committee and has been since day one. And then the job of that committee is to put it forth to the town and for the town to say, yes, we would like to do this, or no, we cannot do this. Like, it's just like going out to bid. You know, I had work done on my basement. I had contractors come in. I told them what I wanted. They told me how much it would cost. And I got to say, yes, we can do that and I can afford that. Or no, I can't move forward with this project. That's what this is. That's what this committee is, to put together a plan for, let's get a quote, let's get feasible space. Let's look for what this would look like if we decided to go forth and do it. And then we give it back to the town and say, can we afford this? Do you want to dedicate the money? These are the grant funds that we can or cannot get. This is how much we would have to spend out of pocket. And then the community gets to decide whether or not we're doing this. Am I incorrect in my assumption of what the goal of the school building committee is supposed to be, Erica? We are no longer exploring all options from A to Z. We are no longer doing that.
I think the Board of Education, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Superintendent Stevens, narrowed down the choices to, if we want to curb the cost, which is where this discussion was born from, declining enrollment and increasing costs to the schools, we would have to do one of two things. Move to one building and renovate it, or build a new facility and move into one location. Is that correct? And so that's where we're at. Again, all of this came up as a discussion around, we have under 450 students in 2 aging facilities. The adequate number of ideal number of students to adequately fund a school in a municipality is 450. We are educating about 440. Am I close?
It's under that right now. It's a weird year though because
It's
of
a
COVID.
weird year. So before that, it was probably somewhere around 440 in 2
Correct.
buildings. So as we know, the costs have been going up. If it were as easy to put our students into one building and close the doors of the other the next day, I believe the Board of Education would have done that, as was discussed for years. Years as I sat as a member of the Board of Education, and then several years in my current position. So yes, Liza, your observations are correct. So I'm just going to take a stab here at choosing someone, and then we can discuss. So I will move to appoint Gary Anderson as a regular member of the School Building Committee, effective immediately, expiring once the charge of the committee has been completed.
Second.
Seconded by Liza. All right, discussion about Mr. Anderson.
If you read his letter, you will see that he's pretty much committed to building a new school. Just read it yourself. Other than that,
Myself.
I have nothing to say.
I think we read very differently. I'll just leave it at that. Any further discussion? I'll call for a vote.
Lessington,
Nay.
Moritz,
Aye.
Krasinski.
Aye.
Just so we can get it out of the way, I would make a motion to appoint Peter Latinzix to the School Building Committee, effective immediately until the charge of the committee is completed.
Second.
Discussion?
I think we need at least one naysayer on any committee. And okay, I'll leave it at that.
Liza?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I would agree with that terminology of a naysayer. I do agree that we need diverse perspectives. So
Sure.
Diverse perspectives, yes. That is my concern specifically about a naysayer being appointed to a committee in which there's conversation and there needs to be discussion and debate and dialogue and perspective taking and the ability to come to consensus, even if there's, even if the consensus is not what you had walked in the room expecting to vote for, if that makes sense. So naysayers, no. Diverse perspectives, absolutely. So that becomes my primary concern. Somebody in the room who wants to contribute to conversation and be a diverse perspective, not to be a naysayer.
Okay, then I'll change that to diverse perspective, because that's what he would produce. And I see nobody else on this list that would.
I think I won't speak to anyone else or speak about Mr. Latinzix, but there's nothing about his letter as opposed to someone else that tells me exactly how they're going to vote in their discussion. So you've made an assumption about every other individual that put their name forth, John. You clearly, as you said before, you were hoping to see more Republicans, that this is a political issue for you. I think providing our residents with adequate information about a project that has been addressed for years, and we need to finally move forward with yes or no, we are going to do this or this, and let the voters decide, is important, and not, I don't know, I think you grossly underestimated your fellow residents who have interest in this. And because Mr., as you described, Latinzix is a naysayer, I think that is not helpful to moving adequate information forward to our voters. Any other discussion? All right, I will call for a vote.
Lessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Krasinski.
Nay. I'm sorry, I did not hear Liza's vote. Was that a yes or a no?
It was a yes.
I will make a motion to appoint Justin Naderno as a regular member of the school building committee effective immediately, expiring once the charge of the building, the committee has been completed.
Second that one.
Any discussion? I'll call for a vote.
Lessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Krasinski.
Aye. Motion carries. I will move to appoint Brianna Ross as a regular member of the school building committee effective immediately, expiring once the charge of the committee has been completed.
Second.
Seconded by Liza. Any discussion?
Lessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Krasinski.
Aye. Is there one more or is that it, Heather?
One more.
I
No
will
more.
move to appoint Nancy Bailey as a regular member of the school building committee effective immediately, expiring once the charge of the committee has been completed.
I'll
Second.
Make a choice.
Seconded by John. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote.
Lessington,
Aye.
Moritz,
Aye.
Krasinski.
Aye. All right, motion carries. That then should be our 11-member board, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. All right, the last item on our agenda is approve a draft. You have a draft of the school building committee charge. This charge was brought up at a meeting back in February of 2020. And I made the corrections discussed then by myself and Selectman Boritz. On number 5, added if necessary, finding and recommending a site if necessary to meet school construction and town needs. And added the words if necessary to item 10, identify potential future uses of the 2 current school buildings if necessary.
I'll second the charge.
Discussion?
I think it's straightforward and what we had discussed, what we have been discussing and what the Board of Ed has been discussing for ever.
In item 2, didn't we have something there recommending a competent architectural and engineering and other appropriate services for the preparation of plans and specifications for constructing or renovating? Because here, if you just say we're constructing the
And I
school,
believe for the purposes of either project, constructing is the adequate term. Renovating, whether you're doing a renovation or a new construction, constructing is the term. And I think some of that language came from state documents. Correct me if I'm wrong, Phil. Mr. Stevens and I took a look at the draft charge from 1990. And that's where most of these items came from. And so the word constructing is simply the process of.
I don't know. That's once again, that's how, if I'm reading this, and this is the first time I've ever seen it, I'm not sure I would take constructing as an either or. I would take constructing as building, constructing, building.
Building, and in a renovation, there would be building happening.
I don't know. Would it hurt to put constructing or renovating and furnishing and equipping the school?
I just find it redundant.
I don't.
Okay, I do, so. And again, Phil, I believe this came right from one of the items in the application for a grant, whether it be a renovation or a new build. So the state
Correct, from
language
DAS,
is
yeah.
not our language from DAS.
Correct.
And we asked specifically about the use of the term constructing, and it may have been a more eloquent response than mine, but it speaks of the process, not a specific renovation or new construction. It does not say new construction. Although in a renovation, you will have potentially new construction.
If I want to build a new barn out here or renovate my old barn, and I tell you, I'm constructing a barn down there, what are you going to think?
It's apples and oranges, John. I'm telling you that the language we used was from the application at DAS, which some of these, if you tell me you're building a new barn, I'm going to believe you're building a new barn. If you tell me you're renovating your barn, you're going to renovate your barn. You're still doing some construction. So
No, that's,
semantics, I think, at this point.
but you,
Again, the draft of their charge does not determine the outcome by the voters of Willington.
so what you are saying here is you agree that using the word construction here could mean either renovating or building a new.
In the purposes of item 2, the term constructing is not a new construction or specifically renovated construction. It does not pigeonhole a project.
Okay, then that'll be in the minutes of the meeting.
It will. Is there any further discussion on the charge as presented? Right, seeing none, I will call for a vote.
Lessington,
Abstain.
Moritz,
Aye.
Wasinski.
Aye. Right, motion carries. We will reach out to those members of the building committee and then determine their meetings going forward. I want to thank all of those individuals who put their names in to be considered, whether it be for the school building committee or any of our other appointments. We appreciate your willingness to serve in Wellington. So thank you. Present to speak. If there is anyone present to speak, please state your name for the record, and then we ask you to limit yourself to 2 minutes. In the participants tab, you can click raise your hand if you wish to speak. Is there anyone present to speak? If you,
Hello, this is Dave Maderas.
yes, Dave.
I was put my name in to be on the building committee, but I was not selected. Just wondering how many of us were not selected, because my experience is very extensive in this area, but just wondering why. Why I wasn't selected and how many were not selected.
After the withdrawals, I believe the answer to that is 2.
So I was one of the 2. Okay.
Yeah.
My experience was working in old buildings and new buildings, it just didn't have any weight, I guess. So, all right.
I wouldn't say that. And normally I don't comment on the present to speak, but we appreciate everyone's willingness to serve and looking for a diverse perspective on this process. And just because someone was not selected to be on the committee does not mean they could not participate in the process. These will be public meetings, which will be open to the public, where public will have an opportunity to speak and share insight. And I would encourage anyone willingness to do so. So thank you. We appreciate your willingness to serve, Dave. And I think you absolutely have something to offer, as do I think
Not enough.
our candidates did.
I don't have enough to offer, I guess, but okay.
Is there anyone else present to speak? All right. I will say, I wish we had more openings for more folks, but as you can imagine, we have to make the limit somewhere. All right. Troop C has offered or shared with us our October report for calls for service to Willington. So in the month of October, we had 526 calls to service. That included 8 accidents, 7 criminal investigations, 1 burglary, and 483 reportable matters, and a total of 6 arrests. In addition, motor vehicle enforcement included 21 total traffic stops. Of those, 4 on-site DUIs, 1 arrest, 3 misdemeanor summons, 8 infractions, 4 written warnings, and 9 verbal warnings. Another friendly reminder to lock your vehicles and do not leave any of your personal possessions in your vehicle. As still not necessarily as widespread as we had been seeing, but still it's best to get into the habit of not leaving your belongings in the car and the car unlocked. I will mention that once again, to find COVID information and specifically COVID testing availability, you can call 211 for testing or the portal at ct.gov/coronavirus. Our mobile food share is every other Wednesday. It has typically been down at the senior center. With an uptick in cases, we've moved to a drive-through model. And so now it's taking place here at the town office building to accommodate for that. So instead of getting out and having individual choice, those who come for mobile food share are given a pre-packaged food, and that's really specifically because of the uptick in COVID cases and for safety purposes. As we continue in what seems like kind of bleak times, if you can and you're able, I ask that you support our local businesses and restaurants. These businesses are often the backbone of our community and they need our support. So if you're able, we ask you to safely support those local businesses. With that, is there anything else for good and welfare, John or Eliza, you would like to share? John, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, I would just like to say after the election, I'm hoping that in the future we can use Hall School again as our voting place. I thought it was much superior both to the town office building and the old town hall. So I'll be talking to the registrars about that.
I might agree. I don't know what that would mean for Mr. Stevens and his students. It certainly needs a change. And from being part of the discussion here in the Old Town Hall, I think you might find a mix of voices in the registrar's office. It certainly is a lot of work to move over there, but it sure was nice and the flow was great. So we'll see. I think they are aware of the discussion. I know they've had the discussion themselves, but it's a lot of work by many. So I see Mr. Stevens just gonna remain quiet. He'll wait till somebody asks him and then we'll address that next time. But yeah, it was nice. It was well done, very well executed. I can't say enough things. Again, right down to the custodial staff, public works crew, and every poll worker that gave up all or a portion of their day to make sure that, again, we had a safe and fair election in Willington. Our hats off to them. You may not have known them, and if you did, you may not have recognized them with their masks on, but those individuals did a tremendous amount of work. And our registrars, again, and town clerks, hats off to them. This was unprecedented, for sure. I can't imagine what larger cities had to deal with. So, Ms. Borat?
Yes, I did want to say a big thank you again to the school, to Phil's leadership in the 2 weeks that we had remote/distance learning. When there was an uptick in cases, I was worried about it, but as a parent with 3 kids and a full-time job plus other obligations, I was nervous about it, but it went really beautifully, and given the circumstances, a very seamless transition for the students. It was much easier this time around for the parents. I'll speak from my perspective. than, the shutdown back in March. And it's evident how much effort and how much energy you and all of your staff is putting towards being able to be flexible, to keep the children safe, to keep your staff safe, to keep the community safe. And I think all of us, regardless of whether or not we have children in the school district, should be giving you a hearty thank you for all the work that you've put in to making sure that you are educating our children brilliantly and doing everything you can to keep this community as safe as possible. So from the bottom of my heart as a parent and as a community member, I thank you for your leadership and please spread that to all of the teachers, the staff, everybody that you work with. I think it brilliantly done.
Ditto.
Thank you. I have a great staff.
It seemed to be seamless from the outside and from what I've heard from many a parent. So, and the kids were looking forward to going back to school today, which was always wonderful to hear. So kudos to you all. And again, I think I know I speak for the Superintendent Stevens and myself, all of the decisions that we've had to make during COVID-19 safety of our staff, our students, teachers, residents. He's obviously making the student and teacher decisions. Their safety and the safety of those inside our community are at the forefront of every decision we make. All right, seeing no other business before us, I will make a motion to adjourn at 8:06. Seconded by Mr. Blessington. This is a non-debatable matter. All those in favor? Aye, aye, aye.
Aye.
Have a good evening, folks. Stay warm. It's a cool one.
You too.
Thanks.
Good night.
Good night. Can stop recording.